riders! Warm welcome to Horse Talk, where we are going to talk about 3 ways of doing liberty with horses and why you actually already may be doing liberty with your horse without even knowing it. Yes, because this is something I've been thinking about for a while. Because liberty isn't necessarily automatically a solution to everything. Although for me, I have experienced liberty as being the solution to everything. Because I think, at least the way I rode earlier, which was the way I was taught to ride, was quite control-based. Like, make sure to keep your horse under control, stuff like that. And I think when we ride in a control-based way, horses, they tend to feel like they don't have a choice. Plus, we as riders tend to feel like we have to be quick and clever and make sure the horse doesn't win. So kind of both parties tend to become maybe a little bit frustrated. But at least for my sake, once I tapped into giving my horses choices, which then made it very easy to do liberty, became the solution to both making myself feel better, because then I didn't have to be quick and clever and make sure my horse didn't win anymore. And also it made the horses feel better because they, as prey animals and flight animals, they need a way out. And it's so much easier to ride a horse who is self-controlling and wants to be where he or she is, not everywhere else, than to ride a horse and we need to make sure they don't, put their shoulder out towards the gate or rushes towards the stable or, have to, manage the horse. Horses are perfectly capable of managing themselves. But this doesn't necessarily have so much to do with the tack or not, because we can operate from the same mindset while riding with tack and while handling our horses with a halter and a lead rope. That doesn't really matter. Just as we can actually do liberty in a way that we basically control the horse with very small signals and make sure the horse doesn't do the right thing, but instead of using the reins, we use the neck rope or something else. But we just kind of make sure that, the horse doesn't win, and if we do that long enough and have the horse responsive enough and are clever enough as riders, we are also able to do this at liberty without the tack. So, I hope you understand what I mean, and if you do, please let me know in the comments below, because I think those are basically 2 of the different ways of doing liberty with horses. We can either control them and make sure they respond to very small signals and make sure nothing ever goes wrong, which requires us to be very clever riders. Or we can use choices to make our ID the horse's ID, which actually doesn't demand us to be very clever riders or to be quick and make sure the horse doesn't do the wrong thing and make sure they don't win. Actually, by giving choices, we can basically let the wrong thing unfold while making sure we release on the right thing, so that the horse, in a way, experiences what they might desire and might be thinking of when we are training them as less desirable as being with us. But if we always make sure the wrong thing never happens, the horse will never have this experience, if that makes sense. I think that's why, if you've ever been riding like circles or seen other riders ride circles, it often tends to be a kind of pattern here of making sure the horse stays on the circle by, inside leg, outside rein. And very often, if you study this with the perception of thinking like, what does the horse really want to do? You might see a horse's tendency to, put the shoulder a bit out and maybe rush a little bit towards the gate where they want to go or where the other horses are, while maybe becoming a bit slower and the inner shoulder falls a bit inwards when riding away from the gate. And then if you are a clever rider, you are able to kind of ride through this and make sure the circle gets straight, although the horse wants to be somewhere else. But if we instead make the gate less favorable so that the horse isn't rushing toward, or the horse might be scared of those bushes or some corner in the arena that they tend to kind of, go away from, and then their shoulders aren't straight anymore. If we solve that, then, horses are perfectly capable of running in circles from self on their own without the help of a rider. They can do anything without the help of a rider. But my point is that when we help them too much, they tend to either lose motivation or they tend to become a bit upset because they feel controlled. And the way, at least I have found, the best way to solve this is to give choices and make our ID the horse's ID. And this is also what turned out to make liberty training very easy, since I then wasn't using the reins and my riding signals to keep the horse straight or prevent the horse from doing stuff. It was very easy to just get rid of the tack and, cruise around. Yes, so choices is my go-to method for training horses after experiencing this. And also the rescues I have retrained. Yeah, I have even retrained my own mare from my own training. Before I learned this, I had a mare who was bucking me off and she was always spooking. And the worse she got, the more controlling I became. Once I discovered that horses don't like being controlled and that it's actually possible to give them choices in a strategic way that, makes them say yes and not say no, then she could also be ridden at liberty. And she became much calmer and a totally different horse. Yes, so if you have tried this with your horse, then let me know in the comments below. But there's, of course, a third way of doing liberty with horses, which is very popular as well, and not necessarily anything wrong with it. But that is, of course, to use positive reinforcement. So if we're not controlling the horse and we're not giving choices, we need to have some kind of way of making the right thing favorable for the horse. And then it can be very effective to, of course, reinforce the horse positively by giving the horse rewards for doing the right thing. And to get the reward, they do the right thing, and that's what we then get more of. And nothing wrong with this, but sometimes we can, come into a situation that it's we might not have the treats there, or stuff happens that, we aren't necessarily prepared for. And it tends to, at least what I found with my anxious mare, is that if we are not careful with these treats and the horse is feeling anxiety, although we may not notice it, and we give treats when the horse is anxious, we are going to get more anxiety in the horse. So we get what we reward. And sometimes it can be hard to know what exactly a horse is feeling, because we need to be quite good at reading their body language. So we are not only rewarding what they're actually doing, but we are also rewarding how they are feeling. But in my experience, horses tend to feel good when they do something they want to do, that they do from choice. So I think we can get the same results as with positive reinforcement by giving choices, only we don't necessarily need the treats, because the horse learns this from own experience. And it's only from own experience they can actually learn something that is their own knowledge and not something that's influenced from the outside. Yeah, this turned out to be a very philosophical question here. But my point is that we can do this with tack and we can do it without. It isn't about tack, really. It's about giving those choices. That's where the magic happens. And one thing I have definitely figured out is that, although the tack doesn't necessarily matter, is that if we lead our horse and we have a short lead rope, it becomes very hard to give these choices. Because if the lead rope is short, we tend to be controlling them because the lead rope just isn't long enough to start communicating and to give these choices. And also, if we, for instance, are using like side reins or tie-ins or something that makes the horse be under some kind of a little bit of a constant pressure, that also, then it becomes difficult to ride Liberty with tack because the constant contact has a tendency to, you know, although it's supposed to be supportive and all that stuff, it is very easy for us as riders, if we are not mindful, to when we have this constant support, to give the horse signals from a perspective of, no, don't do this. Because at least what I found is that if I'm riding on a loose rein, I can think before I pick up on the rein. In a way, I have to think and I can go like, okay, am I asking the horse to do something or am I asking the horse not to do something? And if I'm asking the horse not to do something, then I am not necessarily giving the horse a choice and making my ID the horse's ID. I'm more like masking a problem with the tack. Yes. But if you want to learn how to do this, because this has been truly life-changing for me as a horse trainer after training horses for decades. Once I started tapping into this, I found new inspiration and a new way of building partnerships and communicating with horses that I had never learned before. And it kind of took me to a whole different path. And if you want to join me on this path and learn exactly how you can succeed with this with your horse, then I invite you to join our free masterclass, which is also live next Wednesday, where you are going to get everything you need to succeed with Liberty training of your horse based on choices and also connection and feel and body language. But I'm not going to talk about all the topics this evening, but this is basically a system that anyone can do with any horse. It doesn't matter if you're handicapped or if your horse is crazy. Actually, it's better if you are handicapped and not very quick and clever and your horse has some kind of issues, because then you are probably already forced to use other methods than fully functional people who are able to be quick and clever and you know, micromanage their horses and stuff. And especially if we have a problem with the horse, we are going to see huge changes in that horse very quickly. Versus with more normal horses, the changes can be a bit more subtle, like they tend to become more motivated if they lack motivation, or they tend to become calmer if they are anxious and rushy. And they also tend to lift their backs more when they're ridden, and also, you know, soften their necks and get a more functional top line from self. Because when horses feel good, they also behave well and they start moving well from self. And I think that a lot of the riding that's going on out there today, it's quite counterproductive in terms of making horses feeling good and behaving well. So in a sense, the more we do, the less productive our riding actually becomes. And if you want to learn this, then make sure to join Succeed with Liberty live masterclass, which is live on Zoom next Wednesday. And you can ask questions and we can, you know, hang out together in our own webinar room there. And if you want to join, then comment masterclass below or hit the link that I'm going to post here somewhere. Because I would really love to see you there and you know, pass on this tool so that you can get started with your horse. Okay, thank you so much for joining this evening and looking very much forward to seeing you there. Okay, bye for now.